Hello, I'm Jacob and this is the Prepper's Bunker Outdoors. Today I'm going to talk to you really quick. This is going to be in the new series on budget products, but this is the Gerber Bear Grylls Ultimate Knife. Now, naming something Ultimate Knife kind of scares me. I feel like that puts expectations pretty high. But this is kind of your basic bushcrafty knife. This was sent in to me by one of my patrons. Thank you so much. And I'm gonna try and start reviewing more budget knives more often. So, a few things to start off right off the bat, guys. I don't have footage of it. I hate when people say that, but when I first got this knife in the mail, one of the first things I did was I wanted to play with the ferro rod a little bit. And I went to scrape it and the ferro flung right out. So it just shot out. I'm not gonna go too much over specs and whatnot on the knife with you guys. Pretty much anybody who's interested in knives has heard of it. But the other thing that I wanted to mention is this knife is supposed to be held in place right here, kind of like Kydex on a proper knife. And there's almost zero retention here. Like if I get this piece of crap out of the way, almost nothing. I can, no problem, right? Okay, so I'm gonna get to a few different things here, but today was my first outing with this knife. I'm gonna show you some footage. We did have some epic failure. Before I get to that, this channel, you'll notice, did not have an advertisement on it. This channel is fully funded through sales on my website, beachandtactical.com, where I sell handmade rifle slings and survival gear, handmade by me. I also have an Amazon store filled with quality products that I've tested, reviewed, most of which I still currently own, most of which is also prime shipping and a great price. And then I also have a Patreon where you can support the channel directly. So, my goal today, this is going to seem a little bit scary to some of my viewers who maybe aren't familiar with the channel or aren't familiar with how I operate in the bush, but not too long ago I broke my baton in my basement, making where I split up firewood for kindling for my wood burning stove. That baton was actually an axe. So I'm out here today to make a new one. I've made so many of these, but it's been a little while. And basically what I'm doing is I take a nice stick of hardwood like this here and baton around the edges. And then baton straight down the side. With the goal of making a nice handle here. And a tool like this can be such a time saver in the bush or in the basement. Anytime you're making a fire or doing bushcraft, that's one of the reasons I don't like saws in the back of knives. People say it's for notching and stuff, but if you have a baton, you make two little notches, pop it right out, you're done in like half the time, quarter the calories. Anyways, honestly, I was working on it. I don't think that the work that I was doing was very challenging. I've done this many times with many knives with much thinner edges than on this Bear Grylls, but the ultimate, what happened is what I'll show you next. Well, before we go, let me quickly touch on why I use knives, because in this case I could have used some other tools that would have made the task much easier. But in the past, when I make one of these, I don't even use a saw to cut the log off. You'll see on my channel if you browse through, but typically I just chop off a piece of log with the knife itself and get to work and make the entire baton just using a knife. I've done this many times on some knives that have an edge that's much thinner and should be much weaker than this little Bear Grylls. A couple things to mention: this is a Chinese made knife, Chinese stainless steel. It is hollow ground, and looking at the grain structure, it's a little bit off. Heat treat was not too good, I don't think. And sometimes you can tell, you're not gonna be able to see on my camera, but you can see if there's problems with the heat treat by actually looking at the grain size, because sometimes you can look in there. If it looks like sand, that's not good. It should look like glass, just about. And this certainly does not. Not the worst I've seen, certainly not the best. But why do I do a big and relatively challenging test with a knife, a survival knife, when other tools could be done more easily? Well, if you find yourself in a survival situation, this is probably about all you got. Typically a belt knife, maybe a large belt knife. It depends on what you carry. But people that go on hikes and find themselves in survival situations aren't carrying an axe and usually aren't carrying a saw. They're hiking, okay? And I like to become proficient with my blade. I like to do everything that I can with my knife. But as a YouTube channel, I do push the limits a little bit, because I have to review many knives. And so one of my viewers might buy one knife and use it for years. I get one knife or buy one knife, and I have about 20 to 30 hours of usage on it. And then the use slows down considerably as I move on to other things. I still go back and I use it, but it's just not the same. So I have to ramp up the type of testing that I do to give people a good idea of how the knife's going to perform over potentially a lifetime purchase, because that's what most people do. So I've never had a failure like this. I've never had a failure so soon. This is a bad deal, guys. Bear Grylls knife. If I wanted to buy a belt knife and it was gonna be this week, I'd buy a Mora. I'd spend half the money. I'd get a much better design, a much better edge, much better quality metal, much easier to sharpen, holds an edge longer, just better all the way around. And would I use it to baton stuff? Probably not, because I know that it's a Mora. It's not advertised as a survival knife. But if you're looking for a survival knife, don't be looking to spend $20 or know the knife's limits. So I actually didn't expect this to break, but I had a feeling that it might. If you have this knife, knowing its limits is a good idea. But I'm doing this because a lot of people don't know the knife's limits. You see these broken all the time. People don't realize that this knife is not what it's being marketed as. Basically, guys, it's just a piece of junk. So in a survival situation, I'd have that much edge to use left. And if I had, in a survival situation, you're going to use your knife however you need to use your knife to survive. At this point, I imagine the rest of this knife is probably filled with stress fractures and very likely to continue to break, if not all the way in half. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I know more people won't than will, and that's okay. I hope that you have a blessed day. Thank you for watching. I'm sure I forgot to say a lot of stuff, but I'll try and make up for it in the comments section below. Let me know what you think, and I look forward to talking to you. Thank you for watching.